Shall we move on to the next one?
Yeah, Hero Ground Zero is a jam.
This is one that they debuted live before the album came out.
Yeah.
And they were setting up by saying that Pete was working with...
Des McAnuff.
Thank you. They were working together on the Tommy musical back when they debuted on Broadway. Pete obviously has written Tommy, but to bring it to the stage, you need help. You need a musical director. You need a stage director.
Yeah.
And this guy, what's his name again?
Des McAnuff.
He was saying that Tommy was a hero ground zero. Kind of coined that phrase, and Pete being Pete was like, I like that.
That's a poetic term that I'm going to file away and bring back 26 years later.
Mm-hmm.
This is one of those ones that thematically links to the Age of Anxiety and Floss.
Mm-hmm.
Because I won't get too much into it, but in the novel there is a band called Hero Ground Zero that features very heavily in the main plot. But also, the song itself, relating to Tommy and to The Who's kind of legend in general, is a sort of self-reflective look at how fame changes someone, and sort of how it doesn't.
Reminds me of a certain character.
Right. I really enjoy it. I think the orchestration on this is fantastic.
Right.
It's definitely one of the more heavily orchestrated tracks on the album.
Which makes sense considering where its roots came from.
Yeah, from the Broadway sort of
sound to it.
Yeah.
And, the big sound, like, not just with strings, but even the drums sound kind of big, almost timpani-like.
Yes.
On this track. I don't think they are, but they sound big.
Yeah, this big, deep drums.
And just, like, really big chord crashes. Jack-a-dan! Really into it.
Yeah, that particularly reminds me of Another Tricky Day.
I wouldn't have thought of that one. I'm thinking of a different track.
Yeah.
When this one starts with the strings, and you hear that repeating string riff of and you hear the chord changes, hero, dun, dun, dun. Those aren't the chords I'm singing right now, but it's like, don't think about Baba O'Reilly, don't think about Baba O'Reilly, don't think about Baba O'Reilly.
You thought about it.
I thought about Baba O'Reilly. Every time I hear this track. I'm not saying they're rewriting it, but it's just, it's very similar because it's big. Bob O'Reilly's a big track.
Sure.
And this one sounds big, and there's even an orchestral version of Bob O'Reilly that Pete Townsend released.
Yeah.
Has that same kind of riff to it. That's
right.
And I think I would like this song a lot more on repeat listings, but for me, I can't get past the song. This is essentially a song about Tommy. Now, I know it doesn't have to usually be about Tommy directly, but once I know it's got Tommy roots in it, I can't really look past it.
Okay.
And I know that it's got elements of Tommy. Like, I even wrote down some of the lyrics here. In the end, every leader becomes a clown. Every rock star wants to make a movie. They did make a movie.
Yeah.
I could hear you sing. How many rooms can one note fill? Very similar to how Tommy hears music and it sets his soul free, and then he becomes a leader, but then as we all know, he gets a little too big for his britches, and everyone turns on him.
Yeah.
So for me, it's like, this song is very, very heavy Tommy, not just in sound, but even just in the lyrics. I've been disowned. I've been dethroned. Very Tommy-like. When I played this for our friend, I did not tell her where the roots came from, and she said something along the lines of, that sounded really big, and I said, does it remind you that it had its roots in Broadway, so to speak? And she's like, that pretty much sounds it all right. And she said something.
Considering her theatrical background,
And she said something that made me laugh. She said, if Tommy were remade as a movie, first of all, it could be better. But anyway, that's another show. If Tommy were remade as a movie, Hero Ground Zero would be the end credits song.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, that is so true.
Yeah.
I really like that. Because essentially it sums up the character. Even if you want to take the song out of context and make it not necessarily about Tommy, but it's got a lot of Tommy imagery in it. In my opinion, anyway. So it's kind of hard for me to get past if this is not a Tommy song. I'm like, yeah, but it's a Tommy song.
Yeah, especially there's one chorus sort of toward the middle where Roger sings, "The Kliegman burns my eyes, and on my back I feel the warmth of a new sunrise." That's totally... First off, the Kliegman is the spotlight they would use at the end of Tommy in their live shows to just like blind the audience as they're singing the finale, and it's freaking cool.
Not as cool as when the sun rose, and that was different,
right?
Because at that point, God
was referencing both the Woodstock performance where the sun rose as they performed, and that's also referencing the first and final images of the Tommy movie, where the sun is rising as Tommy has his great revelation at the end of the film. Right,
to kind of replicate that in live shows, they blind the audience as if the sun is literally rising on the stage.
Yeah.
But when the sun actually rose, as John famously said, we had God as our lighting director.
Yeah. So I really liked that because it definitely I can trace the the beginnings of that to actual historical event. I thought that was really cool.
Right, and I really did like that phrase that they came up with, hero ground zero. The idea of, a hero being built up, but then even a hero essentially being destroyed.
Yeah, if just like being a hero who is a crater or who was born at the crater of a great destruction sort of thing. Yeah, I like the imagery of it, but, because of events in history, it's like, phrasing,
Yeah, a little bit. For me, this song is really good, but it is hard for anyone to say, well, this song isn't about Tommy. I'm like, yeah, but it is.
Yeah.
So, but
it is and it isn't.
Yeah, so that's why
it's more about the novel at this point.
I do like this song, but I like Tommy too. So there you go.
Yeah. Well, you can't help but like Tommy. You're named after Tommy.
Yeah. True story. For those who didn't know, the story goes, my dad had said this once, but ever since then, he claims it's not true. It's that when he was driving to the hospital right around when I was born, I hadn't been named yet, and I guess he was listening to the radio and say Pinball Wizard came on. I was like, Tommy sounds like a good name, but I guess he wanted to give his son a proper name, so legally, my name is actually Thomas, but I did go by Tommy until the start of high school. So, I'm kind of born to like that album. Anyway, that's all I got in Hero Ground Zero, really.
Yeah, me too.
So let's move on to Street Song. You can definitely tell us the title because they sing it like 800 times.
Yeah, it's our street song.
It's our street song. So the next song is called I'll Be Back.
No, actually about street song, though.
Yeah.
It's good.
It's forgettable for me.
Really?
Sorry.
Okay.
But you say it's good. I'm not hearing you saying it's great.
No.
This was one on our first listen we were both like, yep, that was their street song. Kind of like what we just said right now.
Yeah, my speaker was not fantastic, so we were having a hard time determining some lyrics.
And by that point, the album had just come out, so no one had posted them online, so we couldn't look them up.
Right.
And this song really reminds me of what I mentioned earlier. Roger's getting old.
Yeah.
It's not really clear to hear what he's saying, except for Street Song, because they sing it like 800 times.
To be fair, he is hitting some high notes.
Yeah, and this song is especially.
Yeah, this is
when he really reaches high.
This is a huge, dramatic, theatrical song. I don't know what the hell it's about.
I do not know either, and I honestly just... Like, you keep telling me it's a street song. It's our street song. That's our street song. Does the street song mean anything? Does it have any significance?
Why are we going out into the streets? What is the...
Are there riots in the streets? Is there dancing in the streets?
Yeah, it's not clear.
It's not clear, and kind of makes the song almost more forgettable for me, to be honest. Like, I honestly, when I listened to it more times, by that point the lyrics were up. I actually pulled the lyrics up, and I honestly stopped paying attention halfway through.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. This is not one of my favorites.
Yeah, it's fine. I think it's good enough to be here.
It's
but like you said, it's just so hard to determine what it's because the lyrics are really vague and kind of hard to hear to begin with. Mm-hmm. The process of trying to figure out what the song is about,
it's a little challenging.
It's too high a bar to ask someone who's just listened to it a handful of times. Right. It's okay.
I kind of really got nothing more to say about it, except the ending falls apart, and that's actually the best part of it, in my opinion.
Is it though?
Oh, I mean, okay, so this is weird. Like, you like the song itself. I don't, but I love the ending, and it's something you don't really...
No, I don't really like it, because...
just throw it away. They even throw the song away.
Right, because the song ends on an off chord. It doesn't resolve.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah, I think the song is the lost chord isn't even in the key of the rest of the song.
No, it's not.
Yeah,
and honestly, that kind of works. It's like, cause to me, it's like the band is like throwing the song away. It's they're done with it. The song's over. They realize the song's going nowhere.
Yeah,
and they just throw it away. And to me, the ending's the best part. It's like when you watch a really boring show and then something spectacular happens.
Yeah, yeah.
That's how this song is. The ending, like actually, when it ended, when we heard it for the first time, I laughed hysterically.
Yeah, we were listening to it,
and like, song's pretty okay, and then it ended.
And then the last chord happens, and Tom is like, "What?" And I just go, "Oh, it hurts."
Very divisive street song, I think you can say.
Yeah, yeah.
It's an indecisive street song. It's indecisive and divisive.
Yeah.
But really, I got literally nothing else to say about it.
So speaking of divisive, then.
Yes, let's move on. This is going to be a fun one to talk about.
So I'll be back.
Where are you going?
So I'll Be Back is...
I had to do that.
Yeah. How...
Get it out.
How do I be fair about this? This doesn't sound like The Who at all. It sounds like a Pete Townsend solo track.
It is.
Yeah, I mean, Pete sings on it and plays, the majority of the instruments. Yeah, sure. But Pete sings on a lot of Who songs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But to be fair, if this song were not on it, we're not on this album, he would have no highlights. Now, we will talk about, something...
There are further songs where he sings lead, yes.
Right.
But, this one... so it sounds sort of like, I guess, late 80s kind of jazz pop thing.
It's got elements that are not The Who jazz, a little bit of country, a little bit of blues. The Who can do blues,
some soul,
but they don't do it very often.
Yeah, it's got a really good vocal from Pete. I don't dislike the song itself. I just don't think it fits anywhere on this album.
We had to talk about this, and honestly, I totally get it. I do. Because for all intents and purposes, this is a Pete Townsend solo song. Mm-hmm. Because he plays everything, he layers himself on the harmonies. I think it's a very lovely song. Honestly, this was one of my first favorites on first listen. I think it's a very lovely song. It's got a very straightforward vocal from Pete, but I think that's what it needs, really.
Yeah, I agree.
If Roger did it, Roger is a better singer than Pete, so to speak.
Yeah.
But Pete,
at certain things.
At certain things. But this one is very straightforward. I imagine this was almost like misunderstood. He gave this to Roger, and Roger's like, Pete, I think you do a really good job on this.
Right.
You would suit it very well.
Yes.
And it's what it should be. And Pete harmonizes with himself very lovely on the third verse.
Yeah, for sure. You've also told me that this is like 5/6 of a good song.
Yes. I mean, I said 2/3. He's like, to be fair, it's not that dramatic.
Right. Because in the middle, there's this bridge where Pete just sort of like kind of...
It's a spoken bridge.
Yeah.
Almost rap.
I was
almost what Almost Music Must Fade was going to be.
I was about to say, it's like a half rap sort of thing where like it just like the production kicks into high gear and it's like, let's throw in some auto-tune and just like...
Throw some more auto-tune.
Just more vocals on top of it. And it just feels like it's just this big pile of sound in the middle of the song. It only lasts for, 20, 30 seconds?
30 seconds. But it's like... It's like when you're watching a good TV show, but you have to get through the 30-second commercial.
Sort of.
It's like, this is what you did not come for. And I played this for our friend, and she's like, it's a really sweet song, but it doesn't need autotune. I was like, thank you. Pete's voice is fine. It's
However,
good.
So something that I picked up on listening to it, I'm pretty sure that all the parts that don't sound auto-tuned, like, outside of that bridge, I think he's nudging his voice with auto-tune in select places.
I do agree. Select places, but it seems very minimal.
It is so minimal that it is almost unnoticeable. I had to listen to this song several times to pick up on those places where it just sounds tiny bit off.
Right.
And I think that's the way to do it.
Right. It's like when you just like have a really small section of a wall that needs to be painted. You just put a little drop there.
Yeah. It's only there if you're looking for it.
Yeah, exactly. And you can kind of notice it, but if you are listening to it generally, you're not really going to notice it until you really hit that bridge, that middle section.
Yeah.
Which is hands down my least favorite part. And Pete sounds fine. Really, it sounds to me he's only using autotune because he can, or because he wants to, as opposed to he needs to. He's not Brian Wilson. Brian Wilson's voice is going.
Yeah.
And he needs to do it. And I still don't like the sound of autotune.
Sure.
But I understand why someone like Brian Wilson uses it. I kind of don't understand why Pete would use it, other than just like, I can, or I want to, as opposed to I have to.
Yeah.
Because his voice is fine. Like, even the harmonies in the third verse, they sound lovely. I love the harmonies.
Yeah.
And then he's like, all right, the harmonies are good. Let's put some more top. It's like, you don't need any more on top of the harmonies.
Yeah.
Like, even when he's auto-tuned, like, all the 6 different vocals you hear in the bridge, and it just sounds like a mess.
Yeah.
I really don't like the bridge, because this song is really good. And
I would say that's where it tips into, like, being significant, noticeable production into overproduction.
Yes, and I don't want to say that the middle part ruins this song, because I do like this song quite a bit. But like I said,
it lessens it.
It's the commercial break.
Yeah.
You didn't come for the commercial, you came for the main thing to watch or to listen to.
Right.
But I totally understand why it could be labeled as a Pete solo song. But like I said, otherwise Pete would have no song. I have a theory about this song.
Okay.
So,
sell it.
Do you recall a demo that Pete wrote called You Came Back?
You Came Back, yeah.
Yes, it's featured on his Scoop collection, and then also was again featured on the Quadrophenia Super Deluxe Edition. It's a song he wrote around that time, which he forgot was originally intended for Quadrophenia until he put that box set together. In the Scoop liner notes, it doesn't mention Quadrophenia because he didn't remember it when he put it on there.
Right.
But he did mention it's a song about reincarnation.
Okay.
Not just the title You Came Back, but there's a really great line in that song of like, that girl dressed in yellow, she used to be a fella, she used to be my very best friend. It's a song about reincarnation, about being reborn. This song has a lot of similar imagery about reincarnation, whether it was intentional or not. It's something that I picked up on. He doesn't shy away from putting religious images in his songs, but he doesn't beat you over the head with them. And this song, to me, has a lot of those images. I mean, I wrote down some lyrics, just the title. I'll be back. I'll be reborn. I'll be alive again in this life, or I want this again. And to me, when I read into it, it really, again, peeled another layer of this love song. Yeah. He's singing to his woman, or best friend, although he does say darling, but someone who he loves very much. Yeah. And he's saying, I love you so much in this lifetime that when I come back in the next lifetime, I'm going to find you. Like, we're going to be together. It's kind of like Bargain in a way, but it's not like Bargain. Bargain's like, this is what I would do for you. I'll do anything to find you, to catch you, to get you. Yeah. But it's really like, it hits hard. Because Bargain's that's a rockin' tune. This one is very gentle. Like, you know, when the time has come for us to depart, whether due to death or what have you, in the next life, I'll be reborn. I'll come back for you. I'll be back. Yeah. And I find that really sweet. Okay.
Yeah, I like that too. I hadn't thought about that at all. I'd completely forgotten about You Came Back.
Hey, well, to be fair, you didn't really thought that much about it because I know you weren't that big on it. Yeah. But the more I thought about You Came Back and this song, it revealed more layers. I'm like, this is a really sweet song about I love you so much that in the next lifetime, when we both start out not being together, we'll be back. We'll be together again. Yeah. And I find that really sweet. And it's like, Pete, you did a really good 5/6 love song here.
Okay. So, general verdict on I'll Be Back. It's a decent song.
But it's at least...
Why is it here?
But for me, it's a really sweet song. Why is the auto-tune here? Yeah. So, not exactly love it 100% for both of us. Right. But each of us have things we really like about it. Yeah. So, moving on then. Let's go from Pete to a different Townsend.
Yes. So... Break the News is written by Pete's brother, Simon Townsend.
Which I think I told you that before we listened to it on first listen.
Yeah, you did.
Because I looked at the book, I was like, oh, it says, asterisk, meaning someone else wrote it, and the asterisk said written by Simon Townsend. And I was like, is that a misprint? They may say co-written? No, it's written.
It is 100% the brainchild of Mr. Simon Townsend, Pete's younger brother.
Yeah, to me this is baby brother Simon, looking up to older, more successful brother Pete. Yeah. I want to write songs too.
Right. And Pete's like, fine, you can put one on our new album.
But for me, the attitude that I got is like, this one's really good. It sounds like Simon's trying to write like Pete when Pete started out when he was in his 20s, but now Simon is not in his 20s. Yeah. But he's like, I'm going to try my hand, I got to start somewhere.
Yeah. I think Simon just turned 60 or something like that.
But the point is, I don't know much about Simon other than the fact that he tours with the band, he plays with them, he even sings with them. If you pick up the Quadrophenia Live, he sings Dirty Jobs. Yeah. And he's got a pretty good voice too. Yeah.
He sings the backing vocals that Pete can't hit anymore.
Yeah.
So, I think it's a good song. It's another sort of why is this here thing, but less so than I'll Be Back, in my opinion.
Well, this is more the band.
Yes. I mean, Roger's singing lead on it.
Pete's playing on it, and Simon's a member of the band, so it still is a band song.
Yeah, but Simon doesn't play on the album.
Oh, okay, then never mind that. But it's the point is, he's a member of the band whether he's here on this album or not. Yeah. He's a member of The Who.
Yeah. So, Simon has this... I've listened to a couple of his songs, not too many. But he definitely has this feel of, like, being a more modern songwriter than Pete has been.
His ears are younger.
Yes, but, like, he seems to be conforming more to the pop sound than Pete ever cared to. Pete, he liked defining the pop sound, or at least an aspect of it. Simon, I feel, is more of a follower than a leader in that regard.
A little bit. I see what you mean.
Yeah, and this is something that I looked at a couple of reviews of this album so far, and the general consensus of the song is like, this is the one that's kind of like, I don't want to say designed, but it would definitely pick up the ears of people who hadn't really listened to The Who and were like, well, can they do stuff like modern pop music is that I like? Mm-hmm. And you throw this to them and they're like, oh yeah, they can.
Yeah. I never thought about that.
Yeah, it feels a little bit markety.
A little calculated?
Yeah, just a tiny bit, because Simon Townsend is a good songwriter, but he seems to bend a little bit too close to pop for my liking.
I kind of see what you're saying. I mean, to be fair, this was another favorite first listen. It sounds like a cover, because it essentially is.
Yeah. And
that's kind of like, once you know that, you can't really unlearn that.
Yeah.
But you don't mind it, because it's not like Simon wrote a bad song.
No.
I think he actually wrote a really sweet love song.
Yeah.
I like the message of it. The main line, I will always be the one to bring you down, or I will always be the one to break the news if it's all right, but I never want to let you down. Reminds me of someone in a relationship who needs to be the serious one. You know, you can pretend everything's hunky-dory, but there are times where you're going to get serious.
Yeah.
But not too serious to the point where you're going to break up. It's like, look, we need to talk about these situations, whether it's behavior, financial, but I'm still going to be with you. I never want to let you down. I never want to see you frown. We got to break the news.
Yeah. I also think it works really well as a sort of mature pop song, in that it's saying, like, God, I think it's really sweet how there's a lot of imagery of us, of the couple, the narrator talking about the couple, saying, like, I really liked how we just sat around in our PJs and watched movies. It reminded me of the times when we were 24. Mm-hmm. And I thought, oh, that's really sweet.
That's really sweet. But they also realize, well, we're not 24 anymore. Yeah. You know, we're older, we have more responsibilities, maybe we have kids now, and we got to be the ones... Or at least I have to be the one who breaks the news. I will always be the one. You know, they always say, you know, so-and-so is the person who wears the pants in the relationship.
Sure, yeah.
And that's the feeling I get from this one. And when I played it for our friend, she said it's a very sweet song. She really liked it. She likes the message of it. She said if this were used in a standard rom-com, this could work really well at the end when, you know, the rom-com's typical where a couple fights, but in the end they get back together. Yeah. This would be a song that plays as the movie ends or in the ending credits. And it would also work because for a modern rom-com, this song does sound kind of modern. Yeah. It'd be like the one, you know, teenagers go see at a PG-13 comedy and they'd be like, oh, that song at the end credits, you know, like, that was pretty good. Yeah. And then they go home and find it on a Who album and then hopefully they become Who fans.
Yeah, exactly.
But she also mentioned something that made me laugh. Do you remember the Family Guy bit with Ringo writing a song? Hey guys, I wrote a song! Oh, that's great, Ringo! Oh,
we're going to put it right here on the fridge where everyone can see it.
But in this case, it's like, we're going to put it right here on the album. That way everyone can hear it. All right!
Yeah, that's definitely the feel I'm getting out of this.
But a really nice song, Simon, if somehow you're listening. Yeah. Good job, man.
Yes, thank you.
And come on the show. We'd love to have you. And bring Pete and Roger, too. Anyway. But solid, man. Roger did say in an interview that he looks at Simon as his brother, too. Yeah. And he said he was very happy to record a song that he had written. Nice. And to me, it's like, that's really nice. That's really sweet. Simon wrote a really good one. I do kind of agree, like, you know, maybe it doesn't fit on a Who album per se, but it's like the Who wanted to do this one.
Sure. Yeah, and who's going to say no to that?
Exactly.
Next one, then. Rockin' and Rage.
Yeah.
What do you think of that, Tom?
Well, here's the thing. Going back a couple songs. I'll be back, you know, slows down a bit. Slows the album down. And then Break the News kind of picks up a little bit. It's got this really nice finger-picking style on it. And then Rockin' and Rage is like, all right, we're going to, you know, build up even more. We're going to get back on track. Yeah. And then they pulled a quiet one on us.
Well, but about Rockin' and Rage, though.
Yes. A quiet... For those who don't know, John Entwistle's great song, A Quiet One. On the surface, you think it's a ballad. It's anything but a ballad. Yeah. And this one's Rockin' and Rage. We're going to rock out to this one.
Sort of.
And then you sort of do.
Sort of, yeah.
Very minimal sort of.
It picks up eventually, but I don't know. The more I listen to this one, the more I enjoy it. A lot of this album has been reminding me of Who Are You? Because of all the orchestration and everything. But this one in particular reminds me of Who by Numbers. Mostly in tone, because, quick background, Who by Numbers was Pete being depressed and feeling like he couldn't top Quadrophenia, his previous album. He was going through some writer's block.
The Quadrophenia tour didn't do so well.
Right. He was back into drinking, and the Tommy movie was a really stressful experience for him.
For all of them, like Keith partied
a
lot at that point. John was flourishing as a writer, but doesn't get much to do on a Who album.
Right.
And Roger comes off being a movie star.
Yeah.
So you've got 4 guys who don't work together at that point.
Right.
Trying to make a record.
And Pete's pretty despondent about that. And I remember the tone of that and how it's coming forth in this song. And I was like, yes, can we get more of that? That's something that I desperately missed in Who songs. One of the reviewers that I watched, TJR, says that he thinks of the Who as a lot of like adolescent rage balanced by introspection. That's sort of the dynamic that he really appreciates of the Who. This really ups the end of the rage and frustration side of things. But as for how I think of the song, I like how it builds. I like the frustration in the vocals. I like the sort of stabbing music comes in behind the vocals.
Reminds me of Tommy. Dun, 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 dun.
Yeah, that's a lot of it. It's excellent. I think it's one of the better songs on here. And it took a few listens for me to get, oh, okay, this is really good. This
one hasn't worked for me because I've gone on record saying Who by Numbers is not really one of my favorite Who albums, because it is dark in places. You can't deny that. It's despite the fact it's got something like Squeezebox on it. There's some parts where they're being brutally honest. And for listeners, that's 50-50. They can relate to it, or something like, I mean, that doesn't relate to me, but I see what you're going for.
Yeah.
I'm more of the latter. When Pete's talking about however much I drink, there's no way out. I'm like, well, I don't drink that much, Pete, so I can't really relate, but I'm sorry you feel that way.
Yeah.
This song is kind of the same for me. When you mention that it's Who by Numbers like, that kind of makes it be like, maybe that's why I'm not really big on it, because the Who by Numbers material, a lot of it doesn't resonate with me personally, but I'm like, it's fine musically. And this song, Rockin' and Rage, it's fine musically. I just wish it, lived up to the title. It rocked more. But it's also misleading because it's not we're rockin' and raging. It's not like rock and roll all night. We're rockin' in rage. We have this rage that we gotta get out.
Yeah.
And the best way to do it is to put down in music. That's what Pete has done for years and years and years.
It's a lot of frustration, and like the fact that it's harder for him to write music, to produce music. It's harder for him to get on stage and do these things that he needs to do to make a living. I think it's really powerful, personally.
Maybe also just I went into the song with the wrong expectation.
Yeah, I think we both did.
Because especially when reading a title, maybe I misread the title as Rockin' and Ragin'.
Yeah.
But that's not the title.
Yeah.
It's Rockin' in Rage. So, nice little play on our expectations. But once I went in with the wrong expectations, to quote Pete, there was kind of no way out for me.
I also think it was funny that the title Rockin' and Rage it might be taken from that line from Endless Wire's In the Ether.
Garrett,
do you remember it?
No.
Okay. That's fine. There's a part in the Ether where Pete sings it and he goes, I'm rockin' and rockin' and rockin' and rage. So I thought, is this related to that? Not kind of, maybe. It might just be a quote, nothing else.
Not the first time Pete's quoted himself, even if it was unintentional.
Yeah.
For those who are wondering why I laughed, go check out our Endless Wire review, and you'll see how I feel about In the Ether.
You said it was really forgettable. No wonder you don't remember.
Yeah, very forgettable, very off-putting vocals. I know it was on purpose, but I don't like listening to it.
Yeah.
But I will say some things nice about Rockin' and Rage, because I don't want to keep putting this song down, because it doesn't deserve to be put down.
Yeah.
I just went in with the wrong mindset, and I feel like I haven't changed my mind yet, even on repeat listens. I'm waiting for that one listener will be like, got it.
Yeah.
It works now.
I do remember you have said you really liked some of the lyrics on this.
Yes. I like the attitude of this song, essentially gotta do whatever it takes.
Yeah.
Where, Pete's personally saying, I gotta write. Like, that's just what I do. I write music. I make music. If I can't speak my truth for fear of being abused, then I might as well be a mute, my voice never used.
Yeah.
I love those lines.
Oh,
because
so good.
And it's the opposite of Behind Blue Eyes in a way. Behind Blue Eyes, if my fist clenches, crack it open, kind of like stop me. But here he's saying, no, but don't stop me. I need to do this.
Yeah.
I need to write. I need to make music, I got all this rage, I gotta get out. And Roger can relate too. He's the singer after all. Roger's got a great voice, and he too is like, I gotta get things out too.
Yeah,
and this song has got some really great notes for him to hit that really make that rage come out.
Roger's creative energy coming from the way he interprets and uses the songs to get across the emotion.
Mm-hmm. And this song doesn't have to strictly be about writing, even though they do make allusions to, writing down songs, or I must speak the truth, I must write it down.
Yeah.
You could put it in your own personal life of, you gotta do what you gotta do. Even if you gotta go through hell to get there. You gotta do it. And there's a great line, if you conquer your fears, you'll get to fly. Not you'll learn how to fly.
It's a privilege.
You'll get to fly.
Yeah.
And like when I read the lyrics, listening to it again, I picked some more up on it. I discovered more layers, but I need to discover more and more layers to get to the point where I'm like, got it.
Okay.
But I like this song on the surface. Mm-hmm. And this was one song, we're getting towards the end of the album.
Yeah.
That when we were getting towards the end of the album, we were getting a little disappointed. That's the word. Yeah. That's the word that I'll use now.
Yeah.
And we'll get into that, especially going into the next song, which closes the album.
Yeah.
But at this point, I was starting to get the idea of I might like this album as a whole, and I want to.
Yeah.
And I think with this song and the next one that we're going to talk about,
it just made it kind of harder to do that.
Right. So that's all I got on Rockin' in Rage.
Yeah, me too.
So let's move on to the last song, which closes the album. She Rocked My World. What a weird ending song to end on. Like when it ended, both of us actually had this look of, That's it?
Really? That's where we're going to end possibly the last Who album?
Right. This is not Tea and Theater at the end of Endless Wire. That's a beautiful closer, which is, downbeat, kind of like this one is. But this one it's groovy, but I don't mean that like in like, oh, I really groove to it. It's like, it's loungy.
Yeah.
It's jazzy. I'm like, the Who lounge act? What?
It's definitely, it's got Latin themes in it. Mm-hmm. I like the song a lot.
It's not a bad love song.
Yeah. And really, just to talk about the benefits of the song, you just have to separate it from track order. So the song itself, let's forget that it's the last song in the album. The song itself, I really like it.
For me,
it's something I've never heard from the Who before, and it works so well that I'm glad I've heard it.
See, I'm the opposite. It is something I've never heard before, but I don't think I really like it that much. Okay. It's very loungy. It's not a bad song. If it doesn't sound like the Who, again, there's that really interesting dynamic of, well, what do you mean it doesn't sound like the Who?
Yeah.
I really, except for Pete and Roger doing a little vocal interplay, this song doesn't sound like the Who. It sounds like Roger joined a lounge band that happened to be played by the members of the Who.
Yeah, a little bit.
And it's not a bad love song. I like the idea of, She Rocked My World. We would think it'd be like a heavy song about how this girl's awesome. She's the best. I love her.
Yeah.
But it's very much like, man, she's cool. She's really great to me.
Yeah. And so the thing about this, it reminds me of other Latin-tinged soft rock songs I've heard and really enjoyed. Stuff like A Fool Says from Pete's Iron Man album, which no one has heard, and I'm well aware of that. So I'll make a better comparison to A Certain Softness by Paul McCartney.
That was the exact comparison we made after it ended.
Yeah, where it's like, I never expected to hear this, but it works so well that I don't give a f***. And that's how I feel about this song. And not just because it's like from the same family musically of, Latin tinged soft rock, but because it's mysterious and atmospheric. It's got great acoustic work from Pete, as always. He's the best acoustic guitarist on the planet, fight me. And Roger really gets a good character going of this like seductive growl vocal thing he's got going through most of it that sort of soars into the choruses. I think it's a really good spotlight of both of their talents.
Right, this is Old Man Roger appearing, talking about this girl who he's loved for years and years and years. I mean, how long has he been married to Heather? Pretty much his lifetime, basically. Yeah. And he's saying, I've been with this woman. I'm gonna pretend he's talking about her, because why wouldn't he?
Sure.
He's gonna talk about her and saying, this lady is my rock. She rocks my world. She doesn't make me go crazy and make me head over heels in love. Which she is, but it's like she keeps me grounded.
Yes.
It's like she rocked my world in the sense of she's a rock, an anchor, as opposed to she makes me wild.
Yeah. that's something that the lyrics take care to point out, actually. People say "rocked my world" as a sort of old cliche.
Mm-hmm.
But it makes sure to point that out and say, no, this is something more than that.
I'm going to use the cliched words, but I'm going to give a different meaning to it.
Yeah, I think that's really clever, and I'm glad that Pete makes that distinction, because, looking at the title, it's like, oh, this could be kind of trite, couldn't it?
Oh, I was very misled by the title.
Yeah.
Again, it was way too soft and jazzy for my taste. Like, this was the last song when we played it on first listen. I was like, all right, let's end this album on a banging note, because they always do that.
Yes, you're bringing in the track order again, Tom,
yes,
which is a different issue entirely, yeah.
But we do need to address that.
But yeah, and I feel like now's the time. I think it's one of the unsung heroes and villains of any album anywhere is track order is incredibly important.
Mm-hmm.
And when you mess that up, it can ruin an entire album experience.
It almost ruined mine first listen. And I say the word ruined only in the sense that it was like, when it ended, again, I was like, that's it? That's how you end the possible last Who album? And then it made me kind of tough, for lack of a better word, to remember the songs that I really liked.
Yeah. Becca and I talked about this at length on our review of Richard Wright's Wet Dream album. It's something that you got to take into account, because the way you begin and end anything, whether it's a single song, street song, or an album as a whole, you got to have a strong ender, a strong beginner.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, the whole experience feels kind of wasted.
I agree, and even looking at the Who's discography, like I've wanted to pose this question of which Who album has the best opener and ending on the same album. It's kind of tough.
It's hard to say,
because
for a lot of those.
Even an album that's underrated, like a quick one, it opens with "Run, Run, Run." You start right away, and then it ends with a quick one. One of the best songs they ever did.
Mm-hmm.
So it's hard to say which album has the best opener ending, because there's so many damn good ones.
Yeah, and this one is not going to be far up on the list.
Not at all.
Because the closer just really brings that ratio down, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
Because, like we said, it's a pretty good song. Tom's saying it's a decent song. I'm saying it's a good song. We're going to even this out to it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
If the track order were different, I think this album would be better.
So should we discuss that?
So I have done that. So I've rearranged the track order on my digital copy of the album. I think that Ball and Chain works just as well as an opener as All This Music Must Fade.
I agree, because Ball and Chain has a bit of a loose opening to it. Like, it takes a second for the song to start, because you hear that guitar and then and then it really kicks in. It's like, okay, cool.
Also, this was the first single. This was the first thing anyone heard off this album. It just kind of makes sense that it could start.
And it would also be the idea of, since the song already exists, it's like, look, this song already exists. We're kind of, quote-unquote, getting it out of the way.
Yeah, a good number of y'all have heard this before because Pete did it, so here it is. The rest of the album will follow if you'll just give us 3 minutes.
It's like the warm-up a little bit. And I really like that idea of Ball and Chain opening the album.
Yeah, so if you just move All This Music Must Fade from the beginning so that Ball and Chain opens it. And personally, I think All This Music works as a great closer for the album proper.
I was going to say that we talked about it, but I held my tongue.
Yeah.
It's a great closer because
it has, we've discussed, it is one of the best songs on this album.
Mm-hmm.
And also, the way that it ends with Pete mumbling to himself, it's a nice, it'll make you laugh at the end of the album and say, that was fucking great.
That was great, and will make you say, that's the best damn ending they've ever done.
Yeah, it's one of them.
Yeah. But just like the way it ends, it would be, and also that idea towards the end of the album is like, look, the songs you've heard in this album, some of them sound familiar. Yes, we're aware of that, and we're going to address it in our final thing that we have to say.
Yeah, that also addresses another aspect of track order we were talking about between ourselves, was that the album feels very top-heavy.
Yes.
And that we mean that the first half of the songs are of much higher, maybe quality,
they're higher up on our list of favorites.
Yeah, all of the songs that we would definitely go back and listen to more are in the first half of the album. You move that to the end, it evens that out some more.
Definitely agree.
Also, a lot of the back 9 songs on this are of lower tempo, lower energy. Bringing this to the back end also just amps up the album, makes it feel more balanced.
Mm-hmm.
And then another further revision that I have will come up later because it involves substituting a bonus track for a previous track that we've already discussed. So the bonus tracks